Hello and Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you all had a really nice holiday season and that 2026 is off to a great start for you. And hey, welcome back to another season of Ottawa Real Estate Market Update. Believe it or not, this is going to be our fourth year now of doing these updates. We're like the Tyler Sheridan of local real estate content. At least I like to think so. And for those of you who've been watching our updates since way back in the early days, you know that the January market update is one of my very favorite videos to make every year. And that is because January is always the episode where I make my Ottawa real estate predictions for the year to come. And also the episode where we revisit last year's predictions to see whether I actually got any of them right. So if you are looking for yet another reason to call me an idiot, just stay tuned, baby. All right, because we've got all that and more in your January 2026 Ottawa Real Estate Market Update. Let's go. Ollie, can I get a let's go?
Let's go.
Emma, can I get a let's go?
Let's go.
Oh, wow, the energy is off the charts. All right. So we will revisit our predictions from 2025 and then give you a fresh new set for 2026 in the second part of this video. But before we do that, as always, we're going to tell you about how Ottawa's freehold and condo property markets fared last month, which of course would be December of 2025. Also, as always, we're going to kick things off with the freehold property market. So let's get those December freehold sales stats up on the screen. Oh, there they are, right where I left them. So we're not going to go too deep into the stats this month, and that's because December is typically a pretty uneventful month in Ottawa real estate. In fact, it's almost always our slowest month of the year, and 2025 was no exception. We sold just 375 freehold homes here in December, which was way less than the 592 homes we sold in November, the month that comes before December. This December sales total was also well below December 2024 sales total of 414. However, in a bigger picture sense, last December's total of 375 sales falls right within the range we'd expect to see in a typical December here, so nothing really noteworthy. The average selling price of those 375 homes in December came in at a little over $758,000. That was also a drop from the previous month's average of $770K, but again, very typical. That being said, last December's $750K average was slightly better than December 2024's average, and it happened to be the second highest December average sale price we've ever seen in Ottawa. Our all-time best December average, in case you're curious, was a whopping $794K. And that happened in 2021, which was just before Ottawa's real estate market hit its all-time peak in early 2022. Moving on, let's talk about Ollie's favorite subject, inventory. Ollie, would you like to explain to the audience what the concept of inventory is?
Not really.
He's still on holidays, folks.
I am. It's the relationship between supply and demand.
Yeah, that's not. Well, it's not your worst. It's not the worst explanation you've ever given us. All right, so inventory, which is a measure that looks at the relationship between supply and demand, rose to 4.19 months in December. Right, so that means that for the month of December, freehold supply outpaced freehold demand. Inventory, along with stats like sales to new listings ratio and the average time it takes for a listing to sell, are often used as rules of thumb to help determine what type of market we are in. Now, 4.19 months of inventory would point to a balanced market. However, again, these stats are just rules of thumb, right? And it's good to take them with a big grain of salt, especially at this time of year where things get pretty wonky due to the number of listings that come off the market in December, and also just because of how slow the market is in general at this time. So case in point, our sales to new listings ratio for December was a whopping 97%. Like that would point to an absolutely gangbusters red hot sellers market. And I can tell you for a fact that that is not the case. So don't worry, if you held off on listing in December, you didn't miss the boat. In fact, you probably made a smart decision, and I'm sure your realtor will also thank you for it. Wrapping up the Freehold sales stats here, the average time to sell for the month was 45 days, which, much like inventory, falls right in the middle of the range we'd expect in a balanced market. Quick little takeaway for you on the current state of our Freehold market. If I had to label the Freehold market right now, I'd call it a balanced market, but honestly, at this time of year, it's pretty irrelevant to try and put a neat little label on the market. What is relevant, however, is that there is arguably no better time of year to find motivated sellers than the period that stretches from very late December to late January. Most of the active listings at that time will have been on the market for a good little while now, and they'll also be getting very, very few showings, if any. The fantasy that many sellers have about a Christmas miracle, you know, like someone coming along and buying their home right before the holidays, that's dead. Right? And let's be honest, this time of year tends to just kind of get dreary, right? Everybody's having to get back to work. Everybody's like 5 to 10 pounds heavier than they were a month ago. The days are shorter, and the spring season and the spring real estate market still feel really, really far away, right? So this is a time where you will see a lot of sellers start to shift their mindset from, you know, I shall not sell my beautiful home for anything less than top dollar, no, to, you know, can someone just please buy this fucking piece of shit, right? So it shifts from I want a great offer to someone please just bring me an offer, any offer. And so the big lesson here is that if you can find the right property, right? And that's a big if at this time of year. But if you can, there can be opportunities to get it at a very good price right now. Come February or March, the market begins to wake up again, and a lot of those same sellers start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and their resolve gets strengthened. That's a good little thing to keep in mind if you're thinking of making a purchase in 2026, or if you're looking for an investment property or something like that. All right, that'll do it for Freehold. Now let's chat about condos before getting to our predictions for 2026. All right, so first and foremost, we'll get those condo sales stats up on the screen for you in 1, 2, 3. All right, so in December, we sold 145 condos in Ottawa. Much like Freehold, that was less than last December, 2024, but it's a pretty typical December total, which would normally fall somewhere between like a little over 100 sales to a little over 200 sales, right? Next, the average sale price for condos here in December was about $422K. That is also a very typical average. And the reason I say that, of course, is because the average sale price for condos here has been flat for over 3 years now, right? And what that's meant in practical terms is that our monthly average has landed somewhere between about $410K and $455K for almost every single month during that stretch, right? It lives there. We actually had a prediction about that last year and may have another this year, so stay tuned. Moving on here, condo inventory climbed to 5.87 months in December. Now, not only does that fall into buyer market territory, but it's the 8th month in a row where condo supply has outpaced condo demand. In other words, the 8th month in a row where inventory has climbed. It's also the highest amount of condo inventory we've had here in almost 9 years. You'd have to go back to January 2017 to find the last time our condo inventory was higher than it is right now. Now, in spite of the high inventory levels, our December sales to new listings ratio for condos was 71%. Now, that total would seem to indicate a seller's market for condos, but as kids say, LOLs with a Z, right? Emma, did the kids still say LOLs with a Z?
Sure.
All right, there we go. Emma says sure. I guess I'm still young at heart. And she's laughing at me. Like I said in the Freehold section, these ratio stats can be pretty bullshit at this time of year, and sales to new listings ratio is by far the bullshittiest of them all. I can tell you with absolute certainty here that our condo market is not in a seller's market, right? LOLs with a Z. And last but not least, the condos that sold in December on average spent 58 days on the market before finally selling. That technically falls into balanced market range, but just barely. Once you get into the 60s, you're considered to be in buyer market territory. So in a big picture sense, I'd say the townhouse condo market in Ottawa is mostly balanced right now, but when it comes to condo apartments, especially in the downtown area, the market is very soft, like AKA it's a full-on buyer's market, okay? So those apartment condos make very little sense for investors right now, but for end users who appreciate the benefits of condo living, and believe me, there are many benefits of condo living, there can be some very good deals out there right now. All right, that'll do it for the stats this month. Now it's time to have even more fun and dive into our Ottawa real estate predictions for 2026. Before we get into our predictions for 2026, let's revisit last year's predictions and see how we did, shall we? So for anyone keeping score, in 2024, we made 10 predictions and we only got 2 of them right. To be fair, we also came very close on a handful of others, but hey, like a miss is a miss, right? We don't give out participation trophies here at the Papineau Group. So with that, let's see if we managed to fare better in 2025. We made 12 predictions in total at the start of last year, and here is each of those predictions along with the results. Our first prediction for 2025 was that the average 5-year variable mortgage rate would remain lower than the average 5-year fixed mortgage rate for the entire calendar year. We get our mortgage rate data from a site called wowa.ca, that's WOWA.ca, and what they do is they take the average posted rate of the 10 largest mortgage lenders in Canada, which of course includes the big 6 banks and then other lenders like Desjardins and Nesto and a couple others. And unfortunately for us, according to WOWA, we missed on that prediction. Right? The average 5-year variable rate actually spent most of the year above the average 5-year fixed rate. It is worth noting, however, that in September of 2025, the average 5-year variable finally dropped below the average 5-year fixed, and it has remained there since. Next, staying with interest rates here, in 2025, we predicted that the Bank of Canada would both cut and raise interest rates at various points throughout the year. That was another miss. Great start. In 2025, the Bank of Canada did cut interest rates 4 times, but at no point did they raise them, right? So to be honest, we're not too mad about missing out on that one. Our third prediction in 2025 was that for the year, the Bank of Canada would end up lowering its interest rate by a combined total of between 0.5% and 1%. And ladies and gentlemen, we got that one right. Each of the Bank of Canada's 4 rate cuts in 2025 was for 0.25%, bringing the total cut for the year to 1%. It's good to be king. Next, our fourth and final interest rate prediction for 2025 was that at some point throughout the year, the average 5-year variable mortgage rate would dip below 4%. And I gotta tell you, things were not looking good for us on that one, but then on December 15th, the average 5-year variable rate momentarily dropped to 3.96%, making this one another hit. All right, so we went 2 for 4 on interest rate predictions in 2025. Not too shabby, tracking a lot better than we did in 2024. Our next prediction for 2025 was that we would sell at least 13,500 homes. Now that's freehold plus condo, right? All single family homes in Ottawa for the year. Now that total would have represented a significant increase from the previous year's sales total. Now we did sell more total homes in 2025 than we did in 2024. However, our total was 12,119. So we came well short of our semi-bold prediction of 13,500. So unfortunately, that one was another miss for me. Next, prediction number 6 for 2025 was that condo sales would make up a smaller percentage of our total sales volume than they did the previous year, 2024. Well, in 2024, condos accounted for 27.67% of total home sales in Ottawa. And in 2025, that number dropped to 25.58%. So we got ourselves another hit with that one. We're back to 500. Now, we made two other condo predictions last year. For anyone who doesn't remember, I was actually quite bullish on the condo market coming into 2025. And of course, in hindsight, I definitely chose the wrong side of that coin in a pretty major way. So you can probably guess how these next two predictions went. Prediction number 7 was that we'd have at least 3 months in 2025 where the monthly average sale price for condos came in above 455K, which has basically been our ceiling for the last little while. And now that did happen once in 2025 in the month of May, but we checked with our in-house statisticians and it turns out that 1 is less than 3. So big swing and a miss there. And then prediction number 8 was that we'd set a new all-time high monthly average sale price for condos at some point throughout 2025. The number to beat there was $478,014, which was set in 2022, and it remains our all-time monthly high average to this day. We didn't really come all that close on this one either. So another big swing and a miss there. If you're keeping score, we're 3 for 8 so far with 4 predictions left to go. Can we get back to 500? Let's find out. Our 9th prediction for 2025 was that freehold inventory levels would stay below 3.5 months, AKA in seller market territory, for the entire year. Right? And we were looking good for about 2/3 of the year on that one, but then in August, our freehold inventory crept up just above 3.5 months, and then it did it again in September, November, and December. All right, so the losing streak continues, ladies and gentlemen. I can just see the keyboard warriors sharpening their insult fingers, their pudgy little insult fingers, getting ready to call me an idiot in the comments as we speak. My 10th prediction for 2025 was that the average monthly sale price for freehold homes would come in above 750K for every single month. And guess what? It f***ing did. Boom! Take that, keyboard warriors. Who's the idiot now? Still me. I'm still the idiot. Our penultimate prediction, big words, for 2025 was that the full year average sale price for freehold homes in Ottawa would end up being above 800K. And ladies and gentlemen, our full year average sale price for freehold homes last year wound up being $801,500. So another hit there. One of the ones we got right last year that was probably the boldest prediction of the bunch, so I'm pretty pleased with myself there. But keyboard warriors, don't you worry, because my 12th and final prediction last year was that there would be at least 8 single-family home sales in Ottawa that would top the $4 million sale price mark. And we came nowhere near that. There were 4 sales of at least $4 million here last year, the same amount as the previous year. And just in case you're curious, the highest sale price for a single family home in Ottawa in 2025 was $5,040,000. And that was for this large estate style home on the water in Crystal Bay. All right, in total, we saw 26 single family properties listed at $4 million or more here in 2025. Of those 26, as I mentioned, 4 of them sold, 8 of them are still actively listed, and the other 14 listings were ultimately taken off the market without a sale. For those keeping track, we ended up going 5 for 12 last year, pretty huge improvement over 2024. That would also be a fantastic batting average for a baseball player or a fantastic 3-point shooting percentage if you're in a basketball. So, you know, we'll take it. But you know, we never rest on our laurels here at the Papineau Group. So let's see if we can do better in 2026, shall we? So without further ado, and there's been a lot of ado in this video, this is a long one, but without further ado, here are my 12 predictions for 2026. Giddy up. As always, quick reminder here that these predictions are just meant to be for fun. I wouldn't call any of these advice, and I certainly would not bet my life savings on any of the things I'm about to say, so neither should you. All right? And with that, we're gonna kick things off with a few predictions about interest rates in 2026. Every year, the Bank of Canada holds a total of 8 interest rate announcements. These announcements are where the Bank of Canada tells us whether they are raising their interest rate, lowering it, or keeping the status quo. Right? And this, of course, will impact variable mortgage rates. All right. My first prediction for 2026 is that the Bank of Canada will hold the line, aka keep their interest rate flat, in at least 6 of their 8 announcements. Now, staying in that same vein, my second prediction for 2026 is that both average 5-year fixed mortgage rate and the average 5-year variable mortgage rate will spend the entire year somewhere in the 4s. In other words, I don't think we will see a ton of movement in 2026 as far as interest rates are concerned. But that being said, my third prediction is that both rates, the average 5-year fixed and the average 5-year variable, will end the year higher than they are today. And for anyone wondering, as of this recording, the average 5-year fixed rate sits at 4.4% and the average 5-year variable rate is at 4.03%, right? And so I think that is likely to be about as good as it gets all year. Moving on, the next 2 predictions are about the market in general. I predict that we will sell fewer than 11,000 homes in Ottawa in 2026. Now again, that is condo and freehold combined. And just to give that figure some added context, if my prediction is correct, if we sell fewer than 11 single family properties in 2026, if we sell fewer than 11,000 single family properties here in 2026, it will be just the second time in the last 17 years that we failed to top 11,000 sales, right? The other time being 2023, where we sold just 10,650 homes in Ottawa. Nothing like a little pessimism to kick things off, a little doom and gloom for you. But I've always said, the best agents shine the brightest in tough markets. So hey, 2026, bring it. Prediction number 5 is that the total number of residential properties that are successfully rented, not sold, but rented through MLS in 2026 will smash the previous all-time record by at least 5%. Now, the all-time record for properties rented through MLS in a single year is 6,050, and that actually came last year in 2025. So there you go. You want some condo predictions next? Ollie, condo predictions? Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Ollie, okay. Emma, want some condo predictions? All right, how many do you want?
6.
6. Ollie, how many condo predictions do you want?
7.
All right, 6 is 7. Well, I got 3, so, all right, greedy. Anyway, my first prediction regarding condos in 2026 is that inventory levels will stay at or above 4.5 months for the entire year. And to put that into perspective, since 2018, so over the span of 96 months, our inventory levels have only gotten that high 4 times total. Next, my second prediction for condos and the 7th prediction overall is specific to condo apartments, okay? So we're not including condo townhouses, condo detached homes here, which I think will probably fare just fine in 2026. But when it comes to condo apartments, I predict that our sales volume in 2026 will set a new 17-year low. Now you might be asking, why does he keep going with 17 years on these? Does this idiot have a problem with round numbers? No, it's just because our data only goes back to 2010, period from the start of 2010 to the end of 2026 makes up 17 years, okay? And since 2010, the lowest number of condo apartments we've ever sold in Ottawa for any given year was 1,619, and that happened in 2014, right? So I'm predicting that the number of condo apartments sold in Ottawa in 2026 will fall below that number. Just a ray of sunshine this month, aren't I? But don't worry, things are about to get at least a little brighter. In fact, I think you may be surprised by my third condo prediction, which is that over the course of 2026, I predict that the average sale price for condos in Ottawa will be the second highest annual average we've ever had. Now, our highest ever annual average sale price for condos came in 2022, where we hit $458,194. I don't think we're touching that in 2026, but I do think we'll land somewhere between that and $438,546, which is the second highest annual average we've had to date. My logic here is simply that while I expect condo sales volume to be very poor in 2026, I think those who do buy condos will be focused on larger, higher quality units. We're not going to see any investors buying these. We're going to see end users buy them, and they usually want stuff that's a little higher end, a little more turnkey, in better, more expensive buildings, right? So that's the logic. In other words, I think it'll be quality over quantity for much of Ottawa's condo market in 2026. So that's 8, I have a really hard time with the number 8. That's 8 predictions down. We've got 4 more to go. That's an easier one with the finger. 4 more to go. And we're gonna shift our focus to the freehold market for the home stretch. Pun intended. Prediction number 9, I'm not even gonna try that one with the fingers. Prediction number 9 in 2026, we are going to set a new 10-year high for the average time it takes to sell a freehold home in Ottawa. The number to beat here is from 2017, where properties that sold on average took 39 days to do so. Right? And in 2026, I think our full year average will be at least 40 days. Right? In other words, I think sellers of freehold homes are going to have to exercise a little more patience in 2026, but I also believe that good homes that are well marketed will continue to experience very healthy demand. In fact, my 10th prediction is that for the full year, Ottawa's average sale price for freehold homes in 2026 will be higher than it was in 2025. All right, now a quick reminder, I just told you that the average sale price of a freehold home here for all of 2025 was $801,500. That was our second highest annual average ever. And while I don't think our average in 2026 will eclipse that by any means, I do predict it will be at least a tick or 2 higher. All right, we've got 2 more to go here. Our 11th prediction for Ottawa's real estate market in 2026 is that we will have at least 2 individual sales of single-family homes that manage to crack the city's all-time top 10 list of the highest sale prices ever achieved on MLS. Hey, look at that. I got a few bright spots at the end here. And just so you know, the 2 lowest sale prices in our current all-time top 10 are 4.825 million, 4,825,000. Math is hard. And 4.9 million. So those are the 2 bars that I am predicting we will clear in 2026. Okay, we are down to our final prediction for 2026, ladies and gentlemen. And this 12th and final prediction is by far the most important of the bunch. All right, so I need everyone to pay very, very close attention here. All right, my 12th and final prediction for 2026 is that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to bring the World Series trophy back to Canada where it f***ing belongs. I'll tell you what, if I only go 1 for 12 on these, so long as I get that last one right, then 2026 will have been a great year. And of course, if you're thinking of making a move or investing in real estate in 2026, the Papineau Group can help make this a great year for you. We're always happy to chat real estate, so don't hesitate to reach out anytime. My contact information is somewhere on the screen. And you can also use the Calendly link in this video's description to access my availability and directly book a discovery call with me at a time that works for you. All right, hope you all enjoy the update this month. We had a lot of fun making it. I'm Serge Papineau from the Papineau Group. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next month.